Kansas City Real Talk, brought to you by KCRAR. Producer Amber here, and I am back with another Realtor story time. I say another because this is actually our 7th edition of Realtor story time, which does seem wild to me because it doesn't feel like that long ago that we started this show, but I guess it has been. We started this show at the end of 2018, about in the fall, and we did our very first Realtor Storytime episode in the fall the following year, 2019, and we have done one a year ever since then. A lot has changed, though, since we started the show in 2018. Obviously, a lot has changed, but one of the biggest things that happened this year was the reformatting of our show. So Bobby Howe did step away from her position, and we miss her a lot. But with that transition, we reformatted. If you haven't been listening to the episodes in the last few months, I would definitely recommend that you give it a try because it's a different vibe now than it was before. And we have a little, for those who maybe are missing the previous format, we do have a little cut for time section with Bobby on it that I will add to the end of this episode after we get through our stories. But let's just go ahead and jump into our first story. This one is from John Arnold. If you recall, he came on the show to talk to us about Lead to Read, which, by the way, I'll just give a little plug for Lead to Read. I love everything that they're doing as a nonprofit in helping promote literacy to young kids in our region. But anyway, this story is unrelated to that. This is his crazy story as a real estate agent, and I will say I wanted to kick it off with a truly hilarious one. This one is definitely funny. So here is John Arnold with his crazy story.
Oh, my craziest story in real estate.
Involving a house or a real estate transaction.
It's kind of gross. It's gross.
Bring it.
Okay, so it's been quite a while ago. It was probably 20 years ago. I hadn't been in it too terribly long, but I was showing somebody that I knew kind of at a distance, but we were up north actually, and I don't get up there too terribly often, but we were looking up in Liberty, and it was during the day, and this is gross, you guys. So we get down to the basement, and it looked like a teenager lived down there. Wasn't it? The house was in decent shape. And we get into the bathroom, and the toilet was full. So it was stupid of me. I shouldn't have done it, but I put my card on the toilet. Thinking, all right, hey, we saw this, so you recognized. So I put my card on there like, hey, we saw this. You probably ought to pay attention. I get a call from the listing agent thinking that I did what was in the toilet. I'm like, here you go. This is for you guys, and here's my card. How's that for a story for you? Is that one of the better ones?
It's not quite where I was expecting it to go.
No, me either.
There were some twists and turns to that one.
I thought I was getting a call from the listing agent, and she was going to go, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry about that." No, she went off on me like, "What are you thinking? Why would you do something like that?" And I'm like, Wait, that wasn't me.
Well, as a listing agent, I had a vacant house this summer. We had the water turned off and the buyer decided to do that and then didn't discover the water was turned off. And then they're calling me in a panic. And I was like, the love of God.
Right.
Let's make sure water's on, people. So.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
There you have it.
Thank you, John Arnold, for providing us with some top-notch entertainment in the form of that unfortunate experience. Our next story is from Irene Lindsay, and the way she tells this story, I think, is what makes it so funny. But it does come with a little tidbit of learning this lesson the hard way. You know, we can learn from her buyers' confusion, and maybe as you move forward with other buyers, you can carry this knowledge with you.
I can tell you about the one buyer I had. We met, we talked, we went over the paperwork. Everything was good. We were out looking at houses. We got the pre-approval. Now we're out looking at houses. We're doing good things. 3 months go by. I'm driving up and down the highway to St. Joe every other day. And we finally find the perfect house. We're good. Everything's great. We're going to put an offer in this house. Okay, so I sent him an email. Okay, what's about to happen is I'm going to send this offer through, and your lender's going to remind you they need paycheck stubs. They need everything that's happened over the past 3 months. They need documentation from you, right? Good job. We're going to do this. I'm going to put this offer in. Girlfriend calls me up and says, were we supposed to keep a job during this time?
Oh God.
No.
I mean, you mean we're supposed to be working? I'm like, what do you mean? What do you 3 months? Wait. I mean, how did you? What have you been doing?
How are we going to pay the bills?
Well, I thought I could just sell this car for $10,000 and use that. How are we going to?
Oh my gosh.
Well, so do I need to go back and get a job?
And start the search all over again?
What are we going to? So sorry. That was my crazy one.
Yeah, and we remind them once they're under contract to not go open lines of credit, but not remind. I actually had a seller once who was then turning around and buying, and it took 60 days between the sell and when we got the other, and they didn't pay their mortgage on their current home for 60 days. So we were trying to pull, we did the final pull the day of closing, and all of a sudden they were denied because they hadn't paid. Yeah, so I've been in very similar shoes. It was like, well, you did tell me I need to keep paying the mortgage. 60 days without paying your mortgage? Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
So now I tell every buyer, and please keep the job. Please keep, not just don't spend. Please keep the job and pay all the regular bills.
It only takes this happening to us once before we have all these new disclosures. And this is why our paperwork is as long as it is, because something's happened at some point and we've had to put it now.
Exactly.
I love the way Irene tells that story because it reminds me of that meme of Jennifer Lawrence on Hot Ones when she goes, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" Her to her buyer. I thought that was so funny. But that story from Irene also kind of steers us into our sort of motif for this episode, which we've just coincidentally, or maybe it's just me overanalyzing all these stories, we've coincidentally over the last few Realtor story times, they usually have some sort of theme, whether it's wild animals or pets or dead bodies or whatever. But in this one, it seems to take a serious turn. It's still going to be entertaining, trust me, but it's taken a serious turn for this Realtor story time. And most of these stories, you can actually glean some advice out of them. Like Irene just said, now I know for future buyers to explicitly tell them, please keep your job. So on that note, we have a story from Michael McReynolds about a buyer who learned a lesson the hard way. Let's hear from Michael.
I had this lady this one time. I mean, this was almost more like sad than it was like crazy.
It's okay.
But I had this lady one time that was a lead that came in, and she wanted to go meet at $1 million house. She wanted to look at $1 million house. So I'm trying to ask her for proof of funds and things that we ask for before you go on that showing. And she said, yeah, I can get it to you. And I was like, all right. But I meet her there, and she starts going on this whole story about like this soon-to-be fiance, and he's the one with the money, and he's gonna get me his proof of funds and all this stuff. And the more and more I'm asking her questions, the more obviously red flags are going up, and I'm like, this just doesn't sound right. So I ask her how they met, and they met online. And I ask her, so like, when's the wedding? And she was like, oh, it's not planned yet. And just digging in more and more and more. And
it was Kevin Costner.
Yeah, right? But she starts saying, like, I'm like, have you guys, because he lives out of town. And I was like, well, how often is he in town? Well, he hasn't been in town yet. And I'm like, have you ever met him in person before? And she said, no. And so I explained to her, like, this is a scam. Like, you're being scammed. Has he asked you for your bank account information? And she was like, yes. I was like, please tell me you didn't give it to him. And she was like, yes. I was like, you need to call your bank and tell them to, like, close your account down or something like ASAP. And anyway, she was like pissed at me because obviously he got pissed at her because his scam was found out. And so he's saying like, I'm not marrying you anymore. Blah. So then she was like mad at me. She was like, you just ruined my life, like my soon to be fiance and stuff. And I was like, I'm sorry to break it to you. Like, you can be mad at me. I will just be happy that I saved you. But like, you got to understand that this was not. And then I heard from her like a couple days later and she was like, yeah, all my family's saying like it was a scam too. So maybe you were right. It's just like, oh my goodness. Like,
that's straight up catfishing.
But
straight up.
It's also like, it's one of those where I felt kind of bad for her. It's sad that she was getting taken advantage of, but at the same time, like, come on, you got to realize that if it's someone you've never met before and he's saying he wants to buy you $1 million house, like,
if it's too good to be true,
it probably is. So I guess that was kind of a weird, crazy
It's
story.
crazy.
that-
It's important though too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a real thing out there.
Yeah.
So
I walked into a multifamily home one time that was really run down, needed a lot of TLC, and we didn't bump into a homeless guy, but he must have like taken off through the back door or something because there was definitely like a squatter situation happening in one of the rooms. So that was kind of weird too.
I've had a couple situations where I'm like, you could tell someone just ran off as you were like, and then you call the agent like, by the way, you got a squatter in your listing. That's fine.
So yes, the would-be buyer, I guess, who didn't end up being an actual buyer, did get a little angry at Michael, but ultimately he definitely did her a favor in informing her that she was in contact with a scammer. So let's jump into the next one. Up next, we have a crazy real estate story from Steve LaRue.
I had one. It was when I was Kansas Association of Realtors president. We've got a trip to Liberal, Kansas to go speak to their board. And right before I'd taken a duplex listing that was rented out by college students, and they weren't the most cooperative ever. And so I'm on my way back from Liberal with Kathy Menden and Vanessa, and we are in the road, and my phone's just kind of blowing up. I'm looking. Apparently, so we try to be very accommodating. We gave tenants 48 hours notice. We only needed 24, but we gave them 48. We tried to stack showings so that, we're going to bug you for 2 hours, but then we're going to leave you alone the rest of the day. We tried everything to accommodate these people. And this gal who is particularly difficult, it's time for the showing. She comes down to unlock the door in a towel, so that the people could look, and says, "Don't come in this room. I'm going to be naked." Okay. So there's 5 showings scheduled within this hour. Agent 1 gets that piece of information, and that was the only one. And so my Facebook starts blowing up. This gal gets on there and says, "Steve LaRue is a pervert. Do not use him. I told these people I was going to be naked in my room during this time, and they came in." And so I kind of let it just kind of blow up for a little bit. And then I came in, and I did make a remark. I couldn't help myself. I said, "Well, I apologize that you had to have that situation happen. You did have 48 hours notice that there was going to be a showing, yet you picked the 1 hour block of time to have your naked time during the showings." And luckily I had other people come and have my back that I'd help it was one of those community forums where they like to blow up and blah, 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 whatever. But it was like, I'm between Liberal, Kansas and Lawrence. I had nothing to do with this. This was all on you. And yeah, that was fun. It was more of I don't know. It might not be the craziest, but that's the first one that comes to mind.
it's pretty
Oh my
crazy.
God. I love it. Also, did the door not have any locks? Like, why?
Yeah, no kidding.
So another lesson learned, if you're agent 1 in back-to-back showings, maybe that bit of information about tenants being naked inside, maybe pass that along to the next person. Obviously, no shade to agent 1 in this situation. You live, you learn, but now we can all learn from that situation. Unfortunately. Okay, this next one is also an agent walking in on something she did not expect to. This one, however, might be a little bit more potentially life-threatening. So this is Fran Sutton with her crazy story.
probably the most dangerous thing was we had a live wire hanging in the basement, and it looked like a snake. But if you didn't know what it was, you might have went to push it out of the way. But I had my inspector with me, and he's like, whoop, stay back, don't touch that, because the main wire coming in was literally just hanging down in the ceiling. So I honestly, I've sold a lot of houses over the years and been in a lot of types of houses, but I think I've had a really good run.
So yeah, look out for snake-like things hanging from ceilings and properties. I mean, either which way, it could be a snake or it could be a live wire. So you might just want to steer clear of that. Okay, our last crazy story, but like I said, we have some other bonus content, but this is our last story, and this one is from John Ketchum.
Not crazy story, but one of those, and made me think, this is something that we need to start like figuring out a way to disclose. But it was just the most like weird. It was just very weird at the time. But we had a client, and we were on the buyer side, and closed, loved the agent, like just doted, did a Google review, all the stuff, positive. Went to our client parties. I'd met this person, and then there was a complaint that came through the I think it's Kansas, so the Kansas Real Estate Commission, and the complaint was to the listing side. So the person now that's owning the home complained to the listing agent, essentially, that they should have disclosed that there was an airport close by, because now they moved in, there's planes coming through. Well, the commission did what they should do, and they also contacted us and basically said, to our side, like, what did you do to disclose this? And we're baffled, quite frankly, because that wasn't something that was on like a checklist or whatever. But every time you look at a phone, you're looking at Google Maps, you are driving, you're seeing airplanes overhead. So it was, in other words, the complaint ended up coming back on the agent that was in my office. And there wasn't, and she was baffled by it too, and just like shocked, because it looked like he was complaining to her, which ultimately I think he was. But that was one of those things that make you go, like, do you need to say, do you need, as a buyer's agent, do you need to say, hey, this is right next to, or not right next to this, there's an airport over here, and there's a flight path that goes right above your house. And I don't know the real answer to that question. I think great agents are very mindful of those things, but it was new for me, and it's the one that I'm choosing for this bonus episode.
I like it. Well, I live in a neighborhood next door to a hospital, and so we have to inform people that helicopters will occasionally fly over their home in the middle of the night. So that actually is one that's very close home to me. So,
oh gosh.
Another helpful tip, and that one comes from John Ketchum. So, like I said, I had a little bit of content that was cut for time. So on Bobby's final episode, we just had a lot to get into. If you haven't heard that episode yet, I recommend going back and listening to it. You have probably, if you listen every episode, you've definitely noticed her absence. So that was her last hurrah on the show. But we still kicked off that episode, or at least that recording, with the typical, what was the format at the time, just some banter, what's going on in the industry, what's going on in your career. And it ended up having to be cut for time. But I saved it because I thought, you know what, this is kind of a crazy story in and of itself. So for those of you who have been missing that beginning portion of the episodes, here's a little extra content for you that came from the beginning portion of that episode and did not make it into the final cut. Here it is.
So it was a dumpster fire last week,
Yep.
just like
it
transactional issues? Or like what was
It was mostly transactional issues, just every single file. It felt like I've got currently, I think we have 12 listings that are pending. Plus we have buyer stuff, but I work on the listing side of things. So I don't have to get too worried about issues that are happening on our buyer side transactions. But it felt like almost every single file had something going wrong with it. And so I came into the office on Friday and I said, I have made an executive decision. Today is going to be a great day because Monday through Thursday we've just been putting out, like we were exhausted. We were just putting out fires left and right. And this problem popped up and this shouldn't be a problem, but it just came up. And you know what? Friday was a great day.
Nice. They listened.
And then we went into the weekend and I had a bunch of dumpster fires on my drive down here, which is probably why I forgot about the book bit until we walked into the room. But
I feel like there have been some transactional things. I also feel like there have been some just general dropping of common courtesies and some unnecessary conflict between agents in the marketplace.
Yes.
And I think really the market's good.
It is.
It's good. And we're still, even though it's good, we're dealing with things that we haven't had to deal with for a while.
Yeah.
And people forgot how to have some difficult conversations or something.
Yeah, it's true.
It's hard.
It is. And it's, one of the issues that it's like, this really took me back. It's been a while, but one of the properties that was supposed to close actually the week before last, but we knew there were some issues, so it got delayed to last week, which it technically it's actually closing as we speak right now. As we were recording, it is finally closing. But my sellers, it was an investment flip property for them. But they are turning around and purchasing for themselves a home that they just purchased on auction, which we had a lot of stress leading up. We had like 4 weeks heads up, no, actually 6 weeks heads up on this auction, and we were watching it daily. And then we get down to the last hour of bidding, and we're in there, and we're bidding. And this is a home my people want to flip and then live in for themselves. It's this gorgeous estate up in St. Joe, this old historic home. We got it purchased, and then we discovered we knew the going into it, but my buyers didn't quite put it all in their head. The 10% buyer premium that happens on auction. So yes, we got it bought for $411, but with that 10% buyer premium, you actually got it bought for $452,000.
Right.
And you have to put 5% non-refundable earnest money down, which was $22,600 earnest money. They need the money from the sale of this one that was supposed to close last week and is closing as we speak in order to be able to purchase this one. So when everyone started going sideways, I talked to the lender and I'm like, you understand my sellers have $22,000 on the line if you can't get this darn deal closed.
That's right.
And so we were working amongst ourselves like, if this falls through, how do we all come together as a group? Do we purchase the house temporarily? But what happened was when they first went, it's a boyfriend and a girlfriend purchasing their first home together. Perfectly fine. The girl didn't have any credit. They were initially not going to put her on the loan, but they thought, you know what, we'll go ahead and put her on the loan. And they said to her very early on, you need to get on your dad's credit card and you need to get on to 2 of his trade lines, the water bill and the cell phone bill. And then we'll have some established credit for you by the time we get to closing. It'll be great. So she went to her dad and said, Dad, I need to get on the credit card. And because parents always know better than all of us, the dad said, that's not going to help your credit score. We don't need to do that. And nobody knew anything until 3 days before closing when they went to pull the lines because they knew what day the credit scores would report out that, what do you mean? What do you mean she didn't get put on the credit card? Well, Dad said I didn't need to do it. And that's when we discovered. And so the last 2 weeks we've been rushing and trying to get her put on. And then there was... And anyways, we eventually got the credit score back at the end of last week, and then we ran into a couple of other problems. And then this morning we were supposed to close at 9:30, and it was 8:45. I'm leaving to head down here to do our recordings, and I haven't received a settlement statement from the title company. And she's like, yeah, I don't have docs yet, but the lender's saying you do have docs. Okay, we'll put everybody on standby. And then on my way down here, I got docs, send them in. So it's just been a...
Jeez.
It's
real
fun.
estate.
Get into real estate, they said. It'll be fun, they said. Last week, there was one day last week. There's 4 of us on our team. 3 of the 4 of us got fleas at different properties.
Oh, God.
And the one who didn't, I said, you stay in the office and you're not allowed to go into any houses the rest of the day because we were all at different properties and we all kept reporting, I guys got flea. And I still have the flea bites on my legs right now from how bad it was. It was just one of those weeks. And therefore, Bobby has no book bit.
Well, but that was enough of a book bit right there.
But that was a book in and of itself, right?
It was.
Yeah.
It was fine.
So there you have it. A special little bonus story from Bobby. Like I said before, that one came from her final episode of the year. I didn't mention before, but I'll mention it now if you want to go back and listen to that. That came out in August. It was entitled Bobby's Journey from Agent to Leader. So, like I mentioned before, you've probably noticed her absence, and with that has come a new format to the show. So the intro section is very brief now because Alex is hosting this show solo at this point in time, and then we just bring on our guest for an interview. So there's no need to banter with anyone because he doesn't have anyone to banter with other than me, and I'm not a realtor, so I don't really have much to contribute to those sorts of conversations. But now we dive straight into our interviews, and because we have a little bit more time on the episode, those interviews, some of them have come out to be a little bit longer than what our interviews previously we had time for. So I definitely want to hear your thoughts. If you have opinions, if you like the new format, if you have ideas, you can always share your feedback with us at realtalk@kcrar.com. I'm looking at that inbox all the time. So if you have feedback, if you have a crazy story you want to share, if just any fun thoughts, ideas, we're definitely open to it. Again, that email address is realtalk@kcrar.com. So thank you for listening. This has been Realtor Storytime edition number 7, and we will be taking an episode off for the holidays because we normally release every other week. That would have fallen on Christmas Eve, but we're taking that episode off, and so it'll actually be 4 weeks before you hear from us again on January 7th. So thanks again for listening, and you'll hear from us then.